Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. It's Gabby. Today I will be doing a YouTube video on my favorite book. We're going to do a book review on my favorite book known as The Defining Decade, Why Your 20s Matter and How to Make the Most of Them. If you see me looking down, I'm going to be reading some things that I prepared prior to this video that I would like to discuss. This is going to be a new series on my channel, hopefully about book reviews of my favorite books that I've read, summaries of them, and my favorite pieces of wisdom that I have taken out of them. So yeah, let's just dive in. I guess the first time I read this book, I was 19, which was kind of perfect timing because it was right before I was entering into my 20s. And yeah, I'll just give you a little summary. It was kind of perfect timing, but it's also never too late to read this book. There is wisdom that you can, I think, extract from this book in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond. So the summary, basically, the main theme of this book is that you should take your 20s seriously and live them intentionally. I guess the author of the book she's a clinical therapist and psychologist who is an expert on people in their 20s, and she kept seeing this theme of 20-year-olds saying that 20 is the new 30, or 30 is the new 20, and you don't have to get your life together or start worrying about that till you're your 30s. And she strongly advises that you take your 20s seriously because, as the title, Defining Decade, this is the decade that is going to set the whole rest of your life up and is the most crucial and important decade in her opinion, even more so than your teens when you're still in high school. This is the first time you're independent and you're learning about your life, and so many choices that we make in our 20s affect our 30s. She breaks the book into 3 parts, which I think is genius. The first part is about work, the second part is about love, and the third part is about general information. Good to know things for your 20s, including your psychology, that your brain doesn't even stop developing until you're 26, among other things, and also just how the brain works. There's some interesting chapters in that section of the book as well. Now, I recommend you go read the book for yourself. It'll go a lot deeper dive, and it's honestly very motivating. An inspiring book, but I'm just going to share my favorite pieces of the book and how it impacted me. One thing I loved about the book, especially because I read it before I was 20, is it made me feel really prepared to go into my 20s, and it made me feel like I had a guide and that I knew what to expect and to look out for going into my 20s. It made me feel twofold. It made me feel happy and relaxed, and it also made me feel anxious at the same time, which I might get into later. It definitely helped me feel like, oh, okay, so this is what it prepared me knowing what people struggle with going into their 20s. I think some good advice it gave me was so the first section, work. You need to work in a job or get experience in something that will help you with the job you want. There's a particular chapter in the work section called Identity Capital, where she basically explains that working at Starbucks is fine. It's a fine job or anything similar to that. But if it's not the field that you want to go into later, particularly in your college years, try to do a job that's in the field that you want to go into. So work an internship, because once you get your foot in the door, it leads to further opportunities. For example, I'm a nurse, and when I was 18, I went to EMT school, and I worked as an EMT while in college, and going through nursing school, it really helped me having a healthcare job and going to school and knowing that I was going to graduate, getting in a healthcare job as well. So I'm very grateful for that experience, and I'm glad I did that versus working at a restaurant or something. And if you're not in healthcare, obviously make it career specific or major specific, but that was really helpful advice, I think, reading from her book and then me executing on it. She explains a huge percentage of your life you will be spending with your coworkers in your 20s, actually more so than your family. And so you should pick what you're going to be spending the most of your hours and days doing very carefully. If I were to give any work advice myself, I would say we often spend time, I recently heard this quote that is, we often spend time hating our responsibilities, but often our responsibilities that keep us happy in life. And that kind of blew my mind, because I think that it's really relatable that sometimes in life our job can be like, oh, I have to get up early to go to the job, and the job can sometimes feel like a chore, or like the thing that you do to make money so that you can do the other things in your life that you actually want to do. But I think it's so true that the structure that jobs give us, the friendships and the people that it puts us around that we would have never met otherwise, with a common cause and a common meaning, it's what keeps us happy in life, I think is very true. Okay, my favorite section of the book, 10 out of 10 section, is the love section. I think I'll do another book review on this book called How to Not Die Alone, which felt to me, I love that book, felt like a deeper dive of this section of her book. It's also, but yeah, my favorite part of this book was the section, or my favorite part of the love section was the chapter called 29 Questions, where she goes into extreme detail about things you should talk about to your partner before getting married. And she has a wonderful quote: the purpose of these questions is not to agree on the answers or to agree with all of these questions. It's okay to disagree on the following topics, but it's not okay to disagree about disagreeing. That's when it becomes a bigger problem, when you disagree with your partner about disagreeing on X, Y, or Z topic. I just want to read a few of the questions from this section because it's just so amazing, and I would highly recommend you read the full book yourself and get all the questions. But she has, I think, 32 questions in the book, and these are just 6 of those questions, just to kind of give you an idea of like how in depth she goes. Okay, so also I will caveat that like when I was 19 and I read these questions, I was like, I thought I knew the answers to some of them, so I was like, oh, I've never thought about that. That's not really dear and near and important to my heart. But as I've aged, things have changed, which I also think is really interesting. So I like created a Google Doc, and I like literally answered all of these questions on a Google Doc for myself. And it's interesting though that like now I'm 24, about to be 25, and the answers have evolved throughout time, which I think is interesting. Okay, what are your thoughts on, question 1, what are your thoughts on marriage? Do you want to get married, or do you envision another form of commitment? What does marriage mean to you? What do you think the difference between dating and marriage is? What are you excited about? What are your fears? What kind of wedding might you like to have? Do I make you a better person? When do I bring out the best in you? Are you religious? Do you regularly or ever attend religious services or events? What religion were you raised with? Would you want to raise our children similarly? Would your parents want our children to be raised with a certain religion? How are we going to manage our money? Do you want to combine finances? What if one of us earns more than the other or has more debt? Is my money your money? Is your money my money? Is my debt your debt? Is your debt my debt? How do you feel about separate bank accounts? What do you spend money on? Do we need to ask each other before making a purchase of a particular size? Will we talk about our finances on a weekly or monthly basis, or will one person mostly handle it? When will we start saving or investing, and how will we learn about it? Do you want a prenup? Do you want to have kids? If so, how many, and at what ages do you imagine having them? Do you see yourself being an older or younger parent? Do you want to start trying to have kids following marriage? Do you want to wait a while? Would you ever want to become a foster parent or adopt a child? How traditional are you when it comes to gender roles? How much are your answers to these questions informed by gender assumptions? What were the gender roles in your home growing up, and how does that influence your thinking on work and family now? I think that's so interesting. But mainly her advice for work, love, everything else in your 20s, but especially love, is to just be intentional and don't drift into relationships or jobs. Which I think is really interesting. She has a chapter that says, you can pick your friends, but you can't pick your family. But when you're picking a spouse, this is the time in life when you are picking your family. This is when you have the power. And she has another quote in there that the most important decision you'll ever make is the person you marry. And so I just love this chapter of the book. It totally opened my mind in seeing, you know, how much goes into a relationship and how much you actually really need to think about, and like where has errors popped up for other people in the past because they didn't think through these issues before getting married. My warning would be with this book is it can give you anxiety, and she clarified on the Mel Robbins podcast. I'm so happy she went on the Mel Robbins podcast because I love both of them. It's like such a wonderful duo. But she clarified that in the book, she's not arguing to figure it out in your 20s, but that you should start figuring it out in your 20s. You should take your 20s seriously. I personally experienced, I felt like after reading this book, I had to have all these things figured out by yesterday. And life is messy and tricky and takes twists and turns you can never envision or imagine. I would say combining this book with Mel Robbins' podcast, if you think you're behind in life, it's my favorite Mel Robbins podcast. It's really good. And I think it's a good, I would recommend listening to that first and then reading this book because it'll calm your nerves and give you hope before jumping into this video. And it's the dichotomy, I think, of the two videos that hits the sweet spot and is perfect advice for your 20s. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed this video. These were the biggest pearls I extracted from the book, the best wisdom that I got and helped me with my life. Highly recommend you go read the book, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.